Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys all ready?
Yeah.
Yes. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to a special edition of The Football Fever, our post-game show. You were just listening to comments from Ryan Day, Jack Sawyer, and the guys live. Will Howard following this win tonight where they punched their ticket to the national championship with a date with Notre Dame. But guys, looking at this win, it wasn't pretty, especially offensively. Jay, I know this is a hot topic for you, but penalties, they are such momentum killers. Tonight, the Buckeyes had 9 penalties that cost them 75 yards. In the last couple games, they only combined for 5 total penalties against Oregon and Tennessee. So we saw that disciplined football. When they're able to play that disciplined football, they get into a rhythm, especially for Will Howard. When they get out of sync like that with those penalties, he gets a little out of whack, and it's hard to kind of pick back up when you're already cruising to stop like that and try to go again. And what was interesting was it was a lot of uncharacteristic ones. For instance, I think everybody noticed Travion Henderson. He was able to redeem himself with that huge, the long touchdown, tying a career long for him, that 75-yarder. But a lot of the penalties came from their senior leadership, which was interesting because those are the guys you look towards playing that disciplined football. Josh Fryer had a couple, Mecca Ibuka, but they were still able to battle through that adversity. Of course, you want to see them clean it up, but even with the 9 penalties of them shooting themselves in the foot, because we talked about before, the only team that beat Ohio State, I believe personally, is themselves. I know
Ohio State
has talked about that. So at times, you kind of saw that tonight, but they were able to still battle back and win, tough it out there. So I think that also speaks volumes to the character of this team.
Well, it speaks to this team being able to win any style of football game. Even when they are trying their best to beat their own ass, they still manage to beat the other team when it counts most. And I think we talked about this off camera a little bit, is we were used to seeing Ohio State be dominant, offensively especially. And it was like, could they win a gritty, close, tough it out game? And I think it was important that they won this way so that now they have the confidence going into another game where you're going to play an elite defense. I mean, Marcus Freeman has their front seven is as good as anyone in the country. They're going to have solid coverage.
Definitely
they're going to the recipe to slow down Jeremiah Smith is now on film. So they're going to watch that film. If you're Marcus Freeman and his defensive staff, you're going to watch that film. You're going to go, okay, we're going to play a similar coverage. We're going to put our best on their best, and we're going to back up, keep everything in front of them, and Will have to make tough decisions. Are you going to keep checking it down? Or are you going to go for that big throw across the seam? Are you going to give us chances to pick that ball off? So that's the chess match is going to happen. But I like that Ohio State won this way because it proves they don't have to just blow you out. They can beat you however they got to beat you.
And who's the linebacker coach that's over there now? That was at
that replaced James Laurinaitis?
That was at Ohio State. He was at Ohio State.
Al Washington. Al Washington is there.
Yep,
that's right.
So
he was at Michigan, too.
He was at Michigan, right. When Ohio State
Good point.
He's at Michigan first.
Right? Al Washington, a former Boston College player from Columbus, went to Bishop Watterson, and has been coaching a few different spots from Boston College to Ohio State to Michigan, and now he's helping out Marcus Freeman out there in South Bend. A fantastic guy, too.
Great coach.
Yeah. So good guy, but I guarantee you, adds a little extra flavor, a little extra chip on his shoulder, a little extra, he didn't leave here the best way. He didn't, there's some things there that he thought should have went a little differently. So to be in the national championship with the linebackers rolling against Ohio State, I think he's going to have a little extra
they're going to be motivated now.
Well, before we get a little bit more into the Notre Dame, I know we talked about the mentality of this team and the noticeable difference in the psyche of this group following that Michigan loss.
No doubt.
I think a lot of people probably got called to the carpet after that.
Well, they said there was a lot of tough conversations that happened in the Woody Hayes Athletics.
And it can't always come from the coach. And I know a lot of people want to, point the finger at Coach Ryan Day. Obviously, it starts at the top. So I respect that. But at the end of the day, those seniors, the guys that actually came back, that actually said, hey, we're coming back to achieve something, we got unfinished business, those are the type of guys that I believe, and obviously I was not in the meetings, but I have a sneaking suspicion that those were the guys that were calling these meetings and having these tough conversations with some of these guys.
Well, it starts at the top, right? We've seen that with Ryan Day, and he's a guy that talks a lot about how sport relates to life. And when you talk about adversity, right, it's not a we talk about if or and, or it's the fact is it's going to happen at some point in life, right? And sometimes you get smacked in the mouth. And in the case of football, it was losing to a 6-5 Michigan squad when we're like, what is happening? The sky is falling here in Columbus. People are calling for his job. We're talking on camera, off camera. People are texting us what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, behind closed doors, man, he has rallied the troops. You go on game one, great SEC team. Tennessee comes to town. You beat them pretty good. You absolutely obliterate the Oregon Ducks out in the historic Rose Bowl. And now we're into the third round here. You beat a great program, Quinn Ewers and the Texas Longhorns. And now we find ourselves in a month. It's like night and day now here in Columbus, right? For this program, this coach, and kudos to Ryan Day. One of my favorite quotes, play with emotion, don't let emotion play with you. That's from the great John R. Wooden.
Love it.
And that's just what I'm really seeing from this Buckeye squad. Even look at Trey Henderson. Yes, it was an uncharacteristic penalty tonight, but how did he redeem himself, right? How did he pick himself right back up? He's proven to be one of those great leaders. He's an emotional guy, right? Play with emotion, don't let emotion play with you. Got to him right there a little bit. It's how do you respond? This Buckeye team, man, they are responding in a good way.
To Kellyanne's original question, which was what changed after that Michigan loss in that locker room specifically. And I'm just speaking, I'm not in that locker room, but I have a good friend who's in that locker room, who's in that building. And he gave me a buzz. And he said, bro, these dudes are pissed. And he said, not only are they pissed, they had a very heated moment in that Buckeye locker room in the stadium post-game. Everybody knows that. There's no secret there. But in the subsequent days following that, where things could have been a fallout and gone off the rails, to Obi's point earlier, there was some meetings. It was called by some of the vets. It was also called by the head guy. And it became this us versus everybody not inside the Woody Hayes Athletics Complex. And that means you, Columbus. Everybody in Columbus.
They kept it
who
in
was
house.
calling for Ryan's job, who was booing the team in the fourth quarter. I'm talking about loud boos. They took that very personal.
Some nasty
and it became
chants about
almost
Ryan
like,
Day.
F the city, F everybody in Ohio. All we care about is the bodies in this building. And I don't say that to mean like we know they hate the fans. They love their fan base. But then they were pissed because they felt kind of betrayed by their fan base. And I love that. Because something about that galvanizes you and it puts your back to a wall. And they needed that chip. It made it grow because a talented team doesn't always have a chip when you're always the favorite.
No doubt.
Well, the Columbus people put a chip on their shoulder that they needed. And now look what we got.
And in a fear of the Buckeye Brotherhood, it could have faltered after that loss, especially when you're having those heated conversations. But instead, this group, like you mentioned, Jay, galvanized and it strengthened that Buckeye Brotherhood. And I think we talked about it earlier, but it is something that is coming up constantly. It's repetitive in their press conferences. I believe we heard it in the post-game press conference too. These guys, they just want to play for each other. They just want one more opportunity to play another game together as the Buckeye Brotherhood. So we're definitely seeing that. And know what the emotion play you? They adopted that pissed off mentality and took it out on their opponents, which is what you want to see with those fast starts. I mean, even tonight, they did come off to a fast start. They had a good first drive. Just those penalties killed that momentum in that first half. But this team is dangerous. When they're motivated, they're dangerous. I think they've proven, we'd mentioned earlier on the show, that this looked like the national championship game in many ways.
Well, this was the two most, I won't even just say talented, both of these rosters are full of NFL players.
I was going to say, but they do have talent.
Like, these are the top talent rosters. And most 5 stars of any two teams in the playoffs, which means this is the most talented two teams.
Well, Jay,
whoever wins this game, we expect it to go win the national championship.
Yeah, an ESPN draft analyst said 21 combined talent NFL going the first 3 rounds.
When you watch
between
the
these two,
see a whole bunch of Ohio State, Texas, Ohio State, Texas, Ohio State.
Well, you could see it, right?
Me of that, not to cut you off, but Miami. Miami, Ohio
OSU.
So many draft picks.
That was unbelievable how many players went in there. I want to go back to a little bit of what you said earlier, though, Jay. You was talking about like keeping things internal and how angry the guys were even after that Michigan game. It's a crossroad, right? Like you can go either go north or south when a team really, because when you lose a game like that and you're the future of the team is in question,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
What can happen to a very immature team is everyone starts thinking internally of like, what's my next move? Am I going to declare for the draft? What is my draft
Great
position?
point.
Hitting the portal.
Great
Am
point.
I hitting the portal? And am I getting ready for draft day, right? Am I getting ready to run that 40 and the bench press and start preserving their bodies? Hey, I need to sit out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's a very specific mindset. And I think a less mature team might have crumbled in that situation.
Yeah, 100%.
It may have crumbled. And it was the leadership, obviously Buckeye. I think Ryan Day has done a really good job, and I know you guys can attest to this, is bringing the former guys around.
Yeah.
And keeping the former guys around. And I know there's guys that I've seen on the sideline like Chris Carter. I know Maurice has been instrumental.
He's in the locker room right now.
Yeah, he's instrumental in that whole process. And having those guys around that have that mentality that Ryan Day can trust, and that was his.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the first year, and I've been saying this, that he has full autonomy. He has full autonomy of this, and it's not. If you look and you say, okay, but didn't he have full autonomy? When you still have Urban Meyer's son-in-law over the quarterbacks.
Yep.
That's not full autonomy.
Right.
He's calling now. This
Even
is the
with Gene
first
being
year.
gone, it gives him a little bit. It gave Ryan a little bit more
Yeah.
power control over
You
how
said
things
who
are going to
being
go.
gone?
Gene
Gene
Smith.
Smith.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it's 100% on him from top to bottom. He's calling everything, and and
Brought in
one
his
thing,
guy, Chip Kelly.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And one thing he doesn't say, and it's just because he's so classy, but even the transition from Urban to him was not necessarily a smooth transition. If you look at Notre Dame's transition, Kelly left like that, right? And gave Marcus Freeman the reins, right? And he was gone, which allowed Marcus to recruit immediately, right? Urban didn't leave like that. Urban left was a little, he kind of, the farewell trip or what have you, but he was still in position, but he was not recruiting like he would normally recruit as Urban Meyer.
Sure.
And it left Ryan Day kind of in a limbo position. Now, Ryan hasn't told me this specifically. This is just what I have assessed through the years and through other conversations and things that I've been privy to. It is challenging that when a coach, in a manner in which allows the other coach to jump into that recruiting immediately, it's harder. Again, Ryan Day has been a class act. He's never called out anyone.
Sure.
He's never said, he's just taken the brunt of
You're
everything.
saying it's similar to Kalen DeBoer situation in Bama. Or it wasn't as smooth of a deal. Like Nick was kind of like, am I gonna, you know what, I'm out. And then Caleb was kind of like, oh, I guess I'm coming in there.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
good point.
And look at what Bama's
happened?
kind of struggled.
Yeah.
Kind of struggled.
Hasn't been that same
Right.
kind of.
Right. And so I want to give Ryan Day credit because I was speaking to a fairly large audience and I had mentioned Ryan Day and I said, people are calling for Ryan Day. It was after the Michigan game. And I said, it is so, people don't understand how hard it is to find people who care. And that seems like a very simple kind of word to say that he cares. But Ryan Day, man, who would you replace that actually cares about this program and has done the things that Ryan Day has done and taken the heat that Ryan Day has taken?
Sure.
Hey, Obi.
Without
the only other
speaking.
guy I think you could have got is going to be in the national championship coaching against him.
Yep.
Great
Yeah,
point.
that's a good point.
Yep.
Now, before we look forward onto speaking of Marcus Freeman, great transition. Is there anything from tonight's game that maybe we talked? Obviously, we're very confident, especially coming out the way that they won tonight, but that concerns you.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead,
I'll
Jay.
tell you
I mean,
right
take
now.
away Jeremiah Smith. The offense is so much better when you're feeding Jeremiah Smith.
Sure.
I'll tell you right now, there are, people are going to talk about the play calling tonight, and they're
Yeah.
going to say, man, for moments in this game,
Hey,
it looked
like
like
Michigan,
that UM game.
yeah,
where Ohio
had
State
shades
struggled
of
to
that
find their
UM
identity.
game.
Well, that was because of the coverage that they were playing. But the
Yeah.
things that did concern me a little bit that started to rear its ugly head with some offensive line one-on-one in protection.
I said that
right?
to our producer Spencer as well. I was like, the offensive line, they struggled at times.
So here's the thing. When things are scripted, when everything's on time,
Yeah.
as you saw in the opening drive in Tennessee, as you saw in Oregon, and even in our first drive, right? When everything's scripted, the ball's out, the timing looks great,
Yeah.
and they're aggressive and they can look good because they know what's going to happen.
Yep.
When you get
Get
in
them
those
off
unscripted
balance,
downs,
yes,
middle of
yes.
the game, where you're trying to find something and they're cutting some things off, and now the adjustments are being made.
Or you
That's
get a
when
15-yard penalty.
Or you get a
See?
Too many of
When
those.
it's
Yeah.
off balance.
Yes.
and now it's 2nd and 15. Well, now it's a little bit hard on your O-line, and now the defense can pin their ears back. So the thing that Ohio State understands about themselves now, Ben, is when they're ahead and, and they score quickly, well, now you force the other team to play your style of football,
Right.
which benefits us because no one can match us when it comes to speed of
Yeah.
our offense, the velocity in which we attack teams. But if teams slow this football game down and turn it into a grind fest, it puts our offensive line at risk because they're not necessarily opening up gaping holes, right? Like we saw those holes got tighter and tighter towards that middle of that third quarter and that fourth quarter. And then you started seeing some one-on-one losses. Texas big D linemen started to toss around our backup left guard. And before you know it, we're going, oh boy, this is turning into a serious situation. We got under control. But what I'm saying is Ohio State has to stay on time with their offense.
They do.
They have to stay aggressive. They have to be able to move the ball through the air. Otherwise, they don't put the pressure on the other team's offense to play like them.
And that's extremely important because the key word, the buzzword I heard there too, you mentioned, Jay, backup. This is a makeshift offensive line. This is not the five guys that they ideally had coming, would like to have at this point in the season. But they've stepped up. They've also battled through adversity. But to your point, they got to stay on time. And keep that momentum and that rhythm, because when they get out of rhythm, that's where you kind of see them struggle a little bit, and you kind of see the shades of those guys having to step up in the way. And credit to them, that's very hard to do. But then you kind of see the shades of that makeshift offensive line.
We call it the word, right, as a patchwork. It's been a patchwork offensive line. You're doing the best you can, kind of plug and chug in areas. But, we were talking off camera before our pregame show, and it was really the physicality. We knew Texas was going to be able to match the physicality. Listen, Oregon is a talented football team. They're fast, slashing, have all the agility, play calling. Dan Lanning, one of the best in the game. But you knew when you're playing the Texas Longhorns, they can really match mano-a-mano from the offensive, defensive line. Obviously, they're talented in the back end as well. But what does stand out, though, kind of was the elephant in the room, right? We alluded to it is, Jeremiah Smith, 3 yards in a national championship environment, have to feed the ball to 4, whatever you need to do in order to get the ball in his hands. Mecca certainly stepped up today. Carnell Tate had some great catches as well. Ideally, you want to establish the run to open up the pass. Give credit to Joel Klatt. I heard some analysis this past week. Maybe they just had the order out of order earlier in the year. We see when Ohio State is able to,
passing it, then they open up the run.
Then it opens up the run. However you want to, put it in whatever order. But the fact is, one feeds off of the other in order to be a complete football team. And we saw flashes of that tonight. Not quite Oregon-esque, but we're going to need our best versus Notre Dame.
Here's the one thing, too, is that when things, Jay, you said this in the pregame, it's like, when things become neutral, if you will, coaching shows up, right?
We did talk about that.
Coaching is most important.
Right. Yeah. So in those times where you are, you get a penalty, you get a holding call, you get, personal, what is it?
Personal foul.
Personal foul, whatever. Those are the situations that you're hoping that your coaches have had enough experience to coach you back into the rhythm that you're hoping for. But Ohio State at this point in time is just, I think they're obviously they're peaking at the right time. But I believe that not only are the players becoming more confident in their skills, their talents, gifts, and abilities, but Coach Ryan Day is becoming more and more confident in his team that he's put together. Because
can I pick you back off of that?
Please,
so, and I said this a little bit pregame, but I feel like we're witnessing a changing of the guards in coaching.
Oh, yeah. You did, yes.
So all of a sudden, look at this Final Four. There is no Dabo.
No.
There is no Nick.
Nick Saban, no.
Retired, right? There's no Lanning. This new era of coaches is now coming, and Ryan Day can be the one to lead the charge. Marcus Freeman right behind him. I mean, these two young guys. Again, Marcus is 39. Ryan's
43, 44.
Young head coaches leading these programs.
That era of those old legendary coaches. There's no Kirby Smart. in this thing right now.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really,
And
really
it's
cool
Big
to see.
Ten Midwest
I
football.
love
Big
it.
Ten
Yeah.
Midwest
Yes.
football.
Ohio State,
Good
Notre
showing
Dame.
for the Big
Golden
Ten in the
era.
Final
Midwest
Four.
football is
And Notre
upon
Dame
us,
with the Midwest
and it'll be
football.
ushered in
Yes.
by two Midwest guys, both Ohio guys, both Ohio State guys.
Right.
And I think when Ryan Day does win this all, and folks, I'm 100% believe he will,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be truly the passing of the guard. And now Ryan can finally put
Mm-hmm.
himself and his name right there
Yep.
with all the top dogs as he deserves. And it'll be his game. And they're set up.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm getting ahead of ourselves. But this Buckeye team, if you just look at, having Quinshawn back, having Caleb Downs
Having
back,
Jeremiah
having
Smith
Jeremiah
back.
Smith for 2 full more seasons,
Yeah.
they are set up to go on an Alabama-like
Yep.
run.
And
a
they got
3-year
some
deal.
key guys from the
100%.
portal too that we haven't been able really to highlight as much just because of what's going on currently.
And
But
and some top-tier kids coming in. Tavian
Yeah.
Sinclair, number 2 overall recruit in the whole country.
Did we get that linebacker from Georgia?
I believe we did.
I think we
I think we're
did.
going to get it. I was told
Some
at the
good-
barbershop,
At the barbershop,
a buddy
we
of
got
mine
Mike.
who's from there knows the kid was like, he's coming to Ohio State. Don't
There
tell
you go.
him yet.
some
Okay.
I
big
just told
guys on
everybody
the
it's official.
offensive
So
line.
what I'm saying is this Buckeye team is primed. Like this program
Yeah.
is about to hit its golden era stretch. You got one more game, and you better handle your business right. I love you to this, but you got to do this
Yeah.
because if you can, it changes everything.
'Cause
Look
you're-
at all the recruits that flipped after the Oregon game.
Yeah.
Watch how this thing goes when we
Because
handle business.
you're not rebuilding, you're reloading all these guys that you're replacing.
You're absolutely right. Here's the other thing: is that if Marcus Freeman loses this game, he's still a legend.
Marcus
in their
has
mind.
already set himself
He's
up
set.
forever.
He's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
first
Ryan
brother
Day-
to ever coach that championship.
Yes.
He's golden.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's golden, and I'm happy for him. And I love you, my brother. But we have got to handle this.
Yeah.
We got to go get this.
Yep. Yep.
Like we need this one.
Because this it will be all for naught.
Yep.
Correct.
If Ryan Day doesn't fit
And
it.
if
And
he-
I hate to say that, but this
I
will
hate it too.
wipe the
But if
slate
he
clean.
loses to a 39-year-old coach, a brother at that in the Nash, they're gonna be calling for his
They're gonna be mad.
Let's not
They're gonna be mad.
put that out there
It's gonna be
because I
so
don't want
bad.
to.
I'm sorry, I know this is a podcast. I'm just
I know it's
speaking
okay.
here.
It's okay. Speak
Yeah.
I
freely.
hate
Speak
that
freely.
for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he
but
got to get this one.
he
got
has
get
to.
this.
And
He has
will.
to.
Because they
He will.
feel like the team
The
of destiny.
guys are
right
bought in. They want this so
now. They
bad.
feel like the team of destiny right
Yeah, they do.
This was meant to be. It's gonna happen. Don't freak out, folks. It'll happen. But it needs to. And when it does,
Yeah.
it's going to be so special, and it's going to trigger a domino effect,
Yep.
which will set up a
Yeah.
2 to 4 year run of, I believe, dominance
Yeah.
right here in Columbus, Ohio.
Would we ever, as Ohio State, come off of the mentality of just chopping necks when it comes to Michigan and when it comes to more specifically even Ryan Day? It is like
I
some
agree.
of our, I mean, believe me, this has been one of the best experiences ever, right? Playing for Ohio State,
Yep.
the experience that I had even individually as a walk-on. I say Ohio State didn't choose me. I chose Ohio State, was able to come and earn a scholarship and play for this great university. Yes, and I won't say but. Yes, and sometimes I sit back and I love our fans, but sometimes I'm like,
Oh, man, let's
yo,
call it how it is, homie.
slow down.
I say
cuz.
this all the time. Ohio State has the most beautiful, most wonderful, most toxic, most crazy fan base on planet freaking Earth. And we love y'all. But y'all crazy as I don't know damn what. Like,
Yes.
there's no pleasing them, okay? They will boo the home team in the third quarter of a game they're winning in.
Listen, we
If
had
it don't look right.
Me and
that's
my
just the
wife was
standard.
on the Michigan on the sidelines of the Michigan game. We're dodging beer cans.
We
and
were
stuff.
on the
Wow.
sideline of the
You
Michigan
were there?
and
Oh, yes, you were. Yes.
That is just
Yes.
what it is here in Columbus,
The
man.
chants that
That's-
rang out calling
like-
for Ryan Day, and I won't repeat it because they weren't appropriate. I mean, technically, I guess I could as on YouTube, but I won't. We're not nice. They were not nice.
Yes.
As they're doing Carmen, Ohio, too,
Wow.
nonetheless.
This is
So
a nice
you were
fan base.
facing
And I've
your
been told this by
fans.
opposing teams. Okay, when we played Texas my senior year,
Yes.
Texas said, "Man, you guys got some wild fans. Y'all
Yeah.
are aggressive. Y'all talking crazy to us." You know what our people said about Texas fans? Man, they are so nice. Some of the
Right.
Nicest fans.
Yes.
most just polite
right.
people.
We
in the
had a
world.
great
No
time
one's
out
ever
of
called
Texas.
Buckeye
Yeah.
fans polite. I've never heard that.
Yeah. But with this playoff system, you have to. That's a paradigm switch.
Yep.
I mean, you have to.
You can afford a couple losses, and Coach Stark and Coach Jay talked about this.
Sure.
It's more of the NFL. I'm not saying lose to UM, right? I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
Okay, that is their number one goal every single year. But in terms of just in general, you can afford a couple losses and still make a playoff run with this expanded college football playoff.
That's a good point, Ben. Is it now? Has college football in the 12-team playoff almost devalued two things:
Rivalry,
beating Michigan and being Big Ten champions?
We've
Because Ohio
talked.
State can win a championship without doing both.
Yeah, we've talked about that. I mean, I still look at it. All of us know it, right? We say it all the time. Standard is the standard. Life in the big city.
Right.
That's Columbus, Ohio. That's the job. Fair or not, that's the job when you're the head guy at Ohio State.
Absolutely.
That being said, with this 12-team expanded playoff now, yeah, likely is Ohio State going to be outside the top 12, even if they lose to a Michigan squad at the end. I mean, it was a 6-5 team, and here we find ourselves, in the thick of it at the number 8 seed, and now they're playing in a national championship. Right? So that is maybe the one negative. I don't want it to devalue the game.
Right.
I think most Buckeye fans would agree with that, but man, you have to like where we're sitting now, going into Atlanta, playing Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and I like our Buckeye squad. We're looking pretty good.
Ben, I'm going to say this. I'm going to step out here and I'm going to say this. If we didn't lose to Michigan, I don't think we'd be here.
And that's the silver lining.
I don't disagree with you because it's provided a real edge.
Yeah,
there's a tick, there's an edge, there's a chip with
Yeah.
this football team, especially versus Tennessee and Oregon. They just came out on, call it what it was, on fire.
They
right?
did.
I mean, that's really what it was.
Yeah.
We saw that the first drive here was scripted, but we knew this was going to be more of a physical, kind of back and forth matchup. But man, the
still won by a couple touchdowns.
playing with that emotion, this Ryan Day squad, what they've been doing these last 3 games has been special. I think that's a good point there.
Yeah,
Obi.
if you're going to take any silver lining away from that, it's definitely the national championship. Gentlemen, we feel like we want to wrap this up here because I'm about to pull out the hat.
Okay.
Because
Nice.
it was well deserved by the Buckeyes. Tipping my hat, especially to Jack Sawyer. Jay, speaking of Jack Sawyer, who's your player of the game?
It's a leading question, but
So this is not as easy as you think it is. Because obviously you think it's like Jack hit a walk-off home run.
Sure.
You want to give it to him right away, which I probably will. But I loved what I saw from Cody Simon.
Yes.
All over the field, played his butt off. I love what I saw from Travion Henderson. Didn't get as many touches as he might have wanted, but he made them count in that touchdown right before half on that screen.
He carved
when
it
everyone
up.
kind of assumed Ohio State would come out there, what was it, a minute and 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Maybe run a couple plays, see if
Yeah.
there's anything there, and take a knee and get the clock run out. No, not Trey. Trey's taking that thing
75 yards.
So I loved that. I loved Emeka. He was like the relief blanket for Will. Just whenever he needed to play, Mecca's going to find a way to get open and make something happen. But yes, of course, I'm just going to be Jack Sawyer.
That play of the game.
Not just
man.
because of the touchdown, right? Okay.
No.
Defensive linemen call a sack, a strip fumble, and a fumble recovery the Holy Trinity. But if you can turn it into a touchdown,
That's just.
oh
what
man, you go like Jack, you're going to heaven no matter what. You're going to heaven. Like you don't understand how amazing of a play that is for a defensive lineman. We all dream of making that play and to do it in the most pivotal moment of the game
on
as
the
a walk-off kind of deal. Unbelievable. He also knocked down 2 or 3 passes.
He got his hands up there.
He also made a couple critical tackles. So Jack has been the embodiment of this Ohio State defense, which has just been dominance.
Game
Tough.
record.
Game player of the game definitely goes to Jack Sawyer. I couldn't dream up a better senior year for a defensive lineman.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to say, when you said something about Travion Henderson, and I really wanted to speak on the coaching staff because a minute or so left in the second quarter, right?
Almost
Going into
halftime.
Yeah.
You're getting the ball at the half.
That is typically the time in which I feel Ohio State pulls their foot off the pedal.
100%.
And that's
Middle 8 minutes that's what Ryan Day said the focus was, heading into the locker room and coming right out of it, keeping the foot on the pedal.
Yeah, and I don't, typically I have heard them say that, and they still, I'm like, why are you letting your foot off of their neck, right? You know what I'm saying? You gotta, what my coach Dana Woodring in high school used to say, you have to have the knockout punch. You have to be able to have that punch that knocks them out, right? And you gotta be willing to throw it. And I just felt like when he ran that touchdown, like I was just happy with the play call. I was like, oh, that was great, right? And then he just took it.
Too.
Will did a good job of pitching it out to him, too.
We're in an over defense. We go to the boundary. They brought pressure from the front, and we have a screen right into the boundary. I was like, oh, wait a minute. If he can, for some reason, get past that first line.
And he did.
He's
so fast.
It was the perfect call.
And we're not settling for, like you said, getting the ball
back in the second half and then trying to go and score.
Let's just get into halftime safe. No, we can't play it safe. Because
but there's that aggressive mentality that showed up. And
it was right after Texas had scored. And we lost our edge when Texas scored.
Response.
And the momentum was like the air was out of the room. And what did we do? We just deflated their entire sideline with that touchdown. You saw every Texas player's head go, oh my God.
The fans in the audience,
too. Were like, no, they didn't. It was like,
yes, we did.
Don't forget who we are. Don't forget who you playing.
Yeah,
send a message.
Great stuff.
All right, well, tipping our hat to the Buckeyes tonight, victorious in this Texas-sized showdown against the Longhorns, now punching their ticket to a national championship against Notre Dame. This should be a really, really good one on January 20th in Atlanta.
It should be a blowout. It won't even be good.
Let's go.
40 points.
I like it.
Well, wait, also, really quick, guys, go Bucks. Gotta end it on the Go Bucks. Come on.
Go Bucks.
Gotta end it on the Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.